Ashley Renee Lyons was born on July 21, 1985, in Scott County. She participated actively in the FFA program at Scott County High School, from which she graduated in 2003. Ashley's brother, Chris, shared her enthusiasm for car repairs. However, her primary interest lay with her boyfriend, Roger MCB. Following their breakup, Ashley discovered she was pregnant with his child. On January 7, 2004, she received the joyful news that she was expecting a boy. She shared her plans to meet Roger and his parents at a restaurant in Stamping Ground with her mother and brother. Despite her mother's offer to lend her a car, Ashley chose to drive herself, assuring her family that she would return shortly. As she left, her mother recalled her last words, "I love you, Mom. I'll be back soon." That evening, when Chris received a call from Roger, he learned that Roger was unable to meet Ashley and had attempted to contact her without success. As the clock struck 8:00 p.m. and Ashley had yet to return home or answer her mother's calls, Carol began to feel anxious. She reached out to Roger's mother and discovered that the meeting had been canceled, prompting a desperate search for Ashley. Chris and his father began their search, eventually checking Scott County Park, one of Ashley's favorite locations. She frequently visited the park with Roger and later enjoyed feeding the ducks there on her own. The park is located approximately 10 miles from Stamping Ground. While driving around the park, Chris and his father spotted a vehicle resembling Ashley's, prompting them to investigate further. Upon approaching the vehicle, Chris recognized it as Ashley's, with the engine running and the lights illuminated. He noticed the driver's side window was open, revealing Ashley seated inside, her head bowed. Although she was secured by her seatbelt, she did not respond. Chris opened the door, shook her gently, and hoped she was merely asleep. However, upon inspecting his hand, he discovered blood, prompting him to immediately call 911. Tragically, by the time assistance arrived, Ashley had already succumbed to her injuries, and the medical team was unable to revive her. The heartbreaking news soon reached Ashley's mother, who was engulfed in sorrow. Investigators arrived at the scene, where Ashley's death was determined to be a homicide, necessitating that her body remain in the vehicle until all evidence was gathered. They noted that the car's engine was still running, the heater and radio were activated, and the driver's side window was down. A preliminary examination indicated the cause of death, as 3 9mm shell casings were found on the ground near the car, and Ashley had suffered gunshot wounds to her head and neck. Despite an exhaustive search, the police could not locate the firearm used in the shooting. The peculiar circumstances surrounding the incident implied that Ashley was likely acquainted with her assailant. The open window on a cold night raised suspicions, and the positioning of Ashley's body suggested she had not made any effort to defend herself or flee. The crime scene further revealed that Ashley's wallet and phone remained inside the vehicle, leading investigators to swiftly dismiss robbery as a potential motive. The interior of the car contained a significant clue, scattered throughout. Ultrasound images that Ashley likely viewed in the final moments of her life, while 5 months pregnant, were a poignant reminder of her impending motherhood. Tragically, Ashley's murder also resulted in the loss of her unborn son, Landon. This shocking crime was unprecedented in Scott County, prompting the community to demand swift action from law enforcement to apprehend the perpetrator. Ashley's parents informed investigators that she had intended to meet Roger, the father of her unborn child, on the day of her death. Roger was devastated, overwhelmed by grief, and struggled to comprehend who could inflict harm upon his ex-girlfriend and their child. Authorities brought him in for further questioning, during which he explained that he had canceled a dinner meeting with Ashley due to other commitments. He attempted to reach her by phone twice, but when she did not respond, he called her home and requested Chris to have her return his call. Roger's account was consistent with Chris's earlier statement regarding Ashley's plans. Carol, Ashley's mother, defended Roger, describing him as a kind individual who had a good relationship with the family, and she could not believe he would harm Ashley or Landon. As investigators continued their search for evidence, Ashley's family sought answers. Carol discovered her daughter's diary, which chronicled her daily experiences, and one name caught her attention: Dina Williams, a classmate from a less fortunate background who often wore the same clothes. Initially, Ashley and Dina were friends, but their relationship soured due to Dina's jealousy. Dina envied Ashley's possessions and her relationship with Roger, and Ashley documented their numerous conflicts in her diary. This revelation led Carol to become suspicious of Dina's potential involvement in Ashley's tragic death, especially after Ashley and Roger's breakup, when Dina quickly began dating. Roger's actions raised suspicions regarding the car, and Ashley's pregnancy with his child may have prompted Dina to eliminate her as a competitor for Roger's affection. Carol provided the diary to the investigators, believing it contained vital evidence. The investigators also found Ashley's accounts of her tumultuous relationship with Dina to be quite revealing. Consequently, Dina was summoned for questioning at the police station, where she denied any involvement in Ashley's death. Employed at a bank, Dina claimed she had an alibi for the night of the incident, stating she was attending an office party. Despite her open disdain for Ashley, particularly due to the pregnancy, her lack of emotional response to Ashley's death was insufficient for her detention, leading to her release. The ballistic examination indicated that the shooter was likely around 5 feet 10 inches tall, making it improbable that Dina, who stood at 5 feet 5 inches, was the assailant. However, her twin brother Thomas, who matched the estimated height, had previously shown interest in inducing a miscarriage, according to rumors. Additionally, there were claims that Thomas would comply with any request from his sister. When questioned, Thomas denied any involvement, and without concrete evidence, the investigators had no option but to release him. As the search for clues continued, Ashley's family prepared for the funeral, struggling with the profound grief of losing two loved ones. During the autopsy, the fetus was removed from Ashley's body, and both Ashley and Landon were laid to rest together, a poignant gesture. The fact that the perpetrator remained unidentified only intensified the family's anguish. Ashley's parents initially offered a reward of $3,000, which was later increased to $5,000, for any information that could assist in apprehending their daughter's murderer. This announcement resulted in a surge of calls from individuals who believed they might possess valuable information. Among these calls, one particularly noteworthy report came from a woman residing near the park where Ashley was shot. She claimed to have witnessed a figure fleeing the park, leaping over a fence, and entering a red Chevrolet pickup truck that was idling nearby. The truck quickly departed the scene. This significant eyewitness account indicated the possibility of multiple individuals being involved in Ashley's murder, prompting investigators to search for at least two suspects. The identification of the red pickup truck led those familiar with Ashley to suspect Roger, who owned a similar vehicle. The police swiftly seized Roger's truck and conducted a comprehensive search. However, they uncovered no incriminating evidence. Subsequently, investigators decided to re-interview Dina and her brother Thomas. They began with Thomas, who initially refuted any involvement. However, upon learning that a witness had identified Roger's pickup truck at the crime scene, Thomas became more forthcoming. When questioned about Ashley's killer, he promptly stated that it was Roger McBee. Thomas ultimately struck a deal with the investigators, agreeing to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. He confessed to supplying the firearm to Roger, who then used it to fatally shoot Ashley. Thomas also disclosed that Roger had disposed of the weapon. After an extensive 6-hour underwater search in Elon Creek, law enforcement officials successfully located the firearm, which was subsequently confirmed through ballistics analysis to be the weapon used in the murder. Initially, investigators considered Dina as a potential shooter. However, they quickly dismissed this theory due to a height discrepancy. During further interrogation, Dina disclosed that she had acted as the getaway driver on the night of the incident. This revelation led to the arrests of Roger Macbeth, Dina Williams, and her twin brother, Thomas. It became evident that Roger was driven by a desire to evade fatherhood, while Ashley was enthusiastic about becoming a mother, receiving full support from her family. In a calculated and malicious scheme, Roger lured Ashley to Scott County Park under the false pretense of a meeting with his parents at a nearby restaurant. Dina transported him to the park, where he approached Ashley's vehicle with a firearm. As Ashley lowered her window to show him ultrasound images, Roger shot her 3 times, resulting in her death and that of their unborn child. He then fled the scene in a pickup truck, aided by Dina. The assailants disposed of the weapon by discarding it into the river. Roger Macbeth denied any involvement in the crime, while Thomas Dina received a 7-year prison sentence for his participation, as part of a plea agreement. Dina admitted to accepting $11,000 from Roger to harm Ashley and induce a miscarriage, although this plan was never executed. Dina also agreed to provide Roger with the firearm used in the murder. According to court documents, Dina Williams entered a guilty plea in 2005 as part of a plea deal. The prosecutors have recommended a total prison sentence of 20 years for her, with the possibility of parole after serving 17 years. They intend to present witnesses who will testify that Dina had a desire to see Ashley dead, conspired with Roger to poison her, and even offered $1,000 to induce a miscarriage. When these initial plans failed, they resorted to more drastic actions. Dina asserted that her public defender cautioned her about the likelihood of a guilty verdict, leading her to express distress over pleading guilty to a crime she did not commit. She acknowledged driving Roger to the park but claimed she merely circled the neighborhood while he met with Ashley and later returned to pick him up. During her drive, a woman reported hearing 3 gunshots, although she was unaware of their significance at the time. Dina, who was involved in the events, stated that Roger had orchestrated a plan without her knowledge. Subsequently, he called Ashley, expressing his love and regret for missing their meeting at the park. The jury listened to this recorded message during Roger's trial. According to Dina, when she departed from the park, Roger did not inform her that Ashley was deceased. She also claimed that she refrained from reporting the incident to the authorities due to her fear of Roger, whom she described as abusive. Dina Williams expressed her terror of Roger, who had threatened her life, and conveyed her regret and sympathy for Ashley's family. However, Roger's parents contested her account, labeling her a compulsive liar who acted out of jealousy towards Ashley and took a plea deal to evade accountability. Dina was ultimately sentenced to 20 years in prison and was released on parole thereafter. In 2021, Dina asserted that she was young and influenced by Roger at the time of the crime, denying any knowledge of his relationship with the victim. During her incarceration, she engaged in various rehabilitation programs, including anger management, legal aid training, horticulture, and Braille transcription courses. Roger's original murder conviction was overturned in 2009 by the Kentucky Supreme Court due to the use of illegally obtained evidence. The court determined that prosecutors had relied on information from an unauthorized jail informant who had engaged in casual conversations with Roger in an attempt to extract incriminating statements. This informant had overstepped his authorized role, resulting in the overturning of the conviction. Subsequently, Roger pleaded guilty to charges of being an accomplice to murder and tampering with evidence, receiving a sentence of 42 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 16 years. He also received a concurrent 5-year sentence for evidence tampering. During his parole hearing in 2023, Roger expressed remorse for his actions, stating that he did not deserve parole and was genuinely sorry for what he had done. He wished to apologize to the family of Ashley Lyons, the mother of his child, whom he had loved deeply. Despite acknowledging his daily regret, his eligibility for parole was denied, and the hearing was concluded. Roger continues to serve his sentence. In memory of Ashley, an angel garden featuring ceramic angel statues has been established at Scott County Park, the site of her tragic death. Following Ashley's passing, Carol and her husband Buford Lyons advocated for legislation recognizing violence against a pregnant woman as 2 distinct crimes, one against the woman and another against her unborn child.